Item number 6648, Level 4 Secret. Containment class, Esoteric. Secondary class, Hymo. Disruption class, Eki. Risk class, Warning. Special containment procedures. Provisional Site-61 has been constructed around SCP-6648-1 to contain and conceal it. Level 4 or higher clearance is required to access all research materials regarding 6648. Only the selected team of researchers appointed by O5 Command are allowed to access -1 and participate in the translation of text inscribed on -1. -2 and -3 are not allowed in close proximity with each other under any circumstances. All Foundation personnel who directly approach -2 or -3 must always remain under civilian disguise. -2 and -3 are monitored by MTF Phi-6 breakup artists at all times. If -2 or -3 relocate, hidden video and audio surveillance devices must be installed within their new area of residence. To avoid triggering the reality-altering effects of -2 or -3, both entities are allowed to carry out daily activities without interference. If -2 or -3 are involved in a highly stressful or uncomfortable situation, a suitable number of MTF Phi-6 members must approach the entities with believable excuses and provide assistance. During the occurrence of a rendezvous event, MTF Phi-6 members are divided into Team 1 and Team 2 to handle SCP-6648-2 and SCP-6648-3, respectively. At least one MTF Phi-6 member must be assigned to approach the entities respectively. The assigned members must obtain the entity's trust and attempt to participate in their journey as civilian travel partners. If the above method fails, MTF Phi-6 may request additional resources to monitor the entities. The transportation systems, lodging services, and administrative procedures around or involved with -2 and -3 must be sabotaged with minimal civilian casualties to delay the traveling entities. After a rendezvous event concludes, -2 and -3 will subconsciously begin to move away from each other, and no further interference is required. If -2 and -3 display any abnormal behavior, especially when the entities fail to resume antipodal distance or continue to approach each other, the O5 Command must be notified immediately. All efforts to interrupt the activities of -2 and -3 must be designed as reasonable coincidences or accidents, believable to both entities and the public. Amnestics are to be administered to any civilian who witnessed the anomalous effects of the entities. All digital or physical evidence regarding the anomalous effects of the entities is to be located, stopped from circulating, and destroyed. All attempts to take SCP-6648-2 and -3 into custody are currently postponed. Research on the possibility of specific occult organizations and rituals triggering a rendezvous event is ongoing. Description: SCP-6648 consists of 3 objects. An extradimensional stele, designated -1, and 2 humanoid entities with reality-bending capabilities, designated -2 and -3, respectively. -1 is a 5 meter by 2 meter by 18 meter stele with the visual and texture characteristics of Calcutta marble. -1 displays an abnormally high resistance towards physical damage, chemical corrosion, and extreme temperatures. The chemical composition of -1 remains largely unknown. The only substances identified through spectral analysis are iron, selenium, calcium phosphate, and silicon. Further analysis on the residuals of comet dust and cosmic radiation found on SCP-6648-1 indicates that the object originates from another dimension. The surface of -1 is covered with inscriptions from ancient Celtic symbols. 65% of texts inscribed on -1 have been successfully translated, with many indecipherable symbols and phrases remaining. The context of the texts on -1 revolves around -2 and -3, referring to the 2 entities as the lovers. However, both entities show no prior knowledge of -1, despite their anomalous behaviors involving -1. SCP-6648-2 and -3 appear as humans in their 20s, of inconsistent gender, often opposite to each other, and unidentifiable ethnicity. Both entities display the physical and mental capacity, sustenance, consumption, and daily activities similar to non-anomalous human beings of their visual age. But whether these actions are actually required for their survival remains unknown. Hume volumes exponentially rise above 0 near observable effects, near -2, while Hume volumes exponentially fall towards 0 near -3, despite no observable effects on their surroundings. Both -2 and -3 display neither knowledge nor control over their anomalous capabilities, as well as the inability to acknowledge any changes caused by their effects. SCP-6648-2 and -3 subconsciously maintain an antipodal distance from each other, except when an anomalous event, designated Rendezvous Event, occurs. During a rendezvous event, -2 and -3 will be subconsciously driven to travel and meet each other at the location of -1. As the distance between -2 and -3 becomes shorter, a variety of temporal and spatial distortions will increasingly manifest around both entities. Things return to normal once the entities resume antipodal distance, a tolerance threshold of 20 to 30 kilometers below the antipodal distance between -2 and -3 was recorded before anomalous phenomena began to manifest. Based on past rendezvous events, advanced scenario modeling predicted a ZK class collapse of reality scenario if the distance between SCP-6648-2 and -3 falls below 2 meters. Documented Anomalous phenomena during past rendezvous events include 1. Chronological gap of 2 seconds to 8 minutes between the entity's location and the rest of the world. 2. Spatial expansion and compression of roads and buildings. 3. Accelerating or reversed aging process in living beings. 4. Anomalous changes in state of matter. Example: water freezing at 35 degrees Celsius. Outside of the rendezvous event, the anomalous effects of -2 and -3 mainly play the role of self-defense, triggered even when the entities are unaware of the situation. When -2 and -3 are directly involved in highly stressful or uncomfortable events, or when any harm is imminent, the entities will subconsciously bend the reality around them to undo the event. All physical objects involved in the previous event will be reverted to an earlier spatio-temporal state. All living beings within the affected radius, including -2 and -3, will lose all memories regarding the previous event, often warped to different locations within the affected radius, to engage in a different activity from before without the prior event occurring again. The full process of reality warping can still be observed and remembered by living beings, or documented by equipment outside the affected radius. SCP-6648 Expanded Logs Part 1 Addendum 01 Discovery SCP-6648-1 was first discovered on 15/08/2002 in Zagora, Morocco. Agent Amir Mustafa, a Foundation agent stationed at the local police department, reported multiple eyewitness accounts of
a rectangular meteor burning in white flames falling into the desert.
15 Foundation field agents were dispatched from Site 306 to investigate the area and discovered SCP-6648-1 at the center of a crater measuring 20 meters in diameter. Due to unknown reasons, -1 managed to land on Earth in a perfectly vertical orientation. SCP-6648-2 and -3 were discovered 3 months after the discovery of -1, when multiple reports of anomalous temporal and spatial phenomena were filed in both the city Bel Abiz, Algeria, and Tauranga, New Zealand. MTF Lambda 5, White Rabbits, was dispatched and divided into 2 teams to investigate the affected areas, where they discovered SCP-6648-2 and -3, respectively, by pinpointing the location with the most unstable Hume readings. The initial attempt to take the entities into custody failed. See Addendum 2. Upon discovering more information about the entities through -1, MTF Phi-6 Breakup Artists was formed to handle -2 and -3. Addendum 02 MTF Lambda 5 Mission Report. Involved Unit MTF Lambda 5 White Rabbits. Involved Item SCP-6648. Report Title securing SCP-6648-2 and SCP-6648-3 for containment. Attempt 1. Date 15/11/2002.
During the initial discovery of SCP-6648-2 in City Bel Abiz, Algeria, and SCP-6648-3 in Tauranga, New Zealand, MTF Lambda 5 divided its members into Team 1 and Team 2 in an attempt to approach the entities respectively and take them into Foundation custody. Team 1 initiated the attempt to take -2 into custody in hopes of providing reference for the later actions of Team 2. After Team 1 set up a perimeter around Hotel, Agent Teal, Agent Rim, and Agent Castor proceeded to Room 204, where -2 was residing. Agent Rim and Agent Castor took cover at nearby blind spots, while Agent Teal convinced -2 to open the door by claiming to be a room service cleaner. However, -2 immediately retreated into the room and demanded to know the true identity of Agent Teal, stating that it identified the calluses on the hands of Agent Teal as a result of firearms training. Agent Teal attempted to calm -2, but the entity demanded them to leave. The reality-bending effect of -2 was then activated, warping all 3 agents to an earlier spatio-temporal state, right before entering Room 204. Agent Teal, Agent Rim, and Agent Castor lost all memories of the previous encounter with -2, and entered Room 204 after getting no response from its occupant. But -2 was not inside. Further investigation of the area found -2 residing in Lounge, 500 meters away from Hotel. The entity displayed no memory of the previous encounter with Team 1. Further plans to apprehend -2 were suspended, and Team 2 was informed of the situation. After receiving reports from Team 1, Team 2 decided to avoid direct confrontation with -3. After Team 2 set up a perimeter around Villa, Agent Novel was stationed at an abandoned construction site 400 meters away with a clear view of Room 8's balcony, where -3 was cooking at a makeshift kitchen. Agent Novel was armed with a sniper rifle and tranquilizer shots, and was instructed to subdue the entity without being noticed. After the rest of Team 2 reported no possible eyewitness, and -3 showed no sign of suspicion, Agent Novel fired a single shot at the entity's forearm. Right before the tranquilizer struck -3, the reality-bending effect of -3 activated, warping Agent Novel to an earlier spatio-temporal state right before firing the shot. -3 was also warped out of sight. Agent Novel lost memories of the previous encounter with -3, and instead began questioning Team 2 for stationing her to watch an empty balcony. Further investigation of the area revealed -3 residing in Motel, 500 meters away from Villa. The entity displayed no memory of the previous encounter with Team 2. Further plans to apprehend -3 were suspended, and Team 1 was informed of the situation. Conclusion: the operation provided evidence that SCP-6648-2 and -3 possessed powerful reality warping abilities, which protects them from harm, regardless of the entity's awareness of the situation. Although Dash 2 and Dash 3 pose great danger in severely altering space and time, the entities showed no hostility without being provoked, and retained no memories of a harmful encounter. It is suggested that future Foundation operatives only approach Dash 2 and Dash 3 under civilian disguise and convincing cover story, as well as refrain from any activity that would induce harm or stress to both entities. Future attempts to take SCP-6648-2 and -3 into custody are suspended until feasible proposals are made.
Addendum 03 SCP-6648-2 Interview Log. Interviewed SCP-6648-2, currently appearing as a 22-year-old male. Interviewer Dr. Carol Lane, Level 4 Researcher, Experienced Psychologist, and Covert Interviewer. Forward. Foundation researchers assigned to SCP-6648 devised a plan to interview -2 under the guise of university students, gathering data for assignments, which was executed successfully on 12/06/2003.
Begin log. Dr. Carol Lane.
Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Zachary. I've been looking all afternoon for someone kind enough to help.
SCP-6648-2. You're welcome, Cindy. Also, please, call me Zach.
Sure, Zach. I promise you I'll buy you a meal after this.
That is unnecessary, really. I'm glad to help. By the way, just to confirm, you're interviewing for your psychology paper, right?
Yeah?
I'm curious about the exact title, nothing else. Just curious. You can keep it to yourself, if it's important to do so.
Yes. Sorry, it's rare to see someone so interested in my paper. They just thought I'm a nerd, trying to guess what people think. Anyway, sorry about that. The title for my paper is The Application of Personality Profiling in Romantic Matchmaking. Yeah, I know, it sounds funny. I don't blame you.
No, you misunderstood. I just thought it was interesting and unexpected. I'm ready to answer your questions.
Thanks for being so nice, Zach. Alright, let's cut to the chase and get started. First question. How would you describe your own personality?
Logic reliant, calm, careful, cautiously polite. My classmates tend to call me boring, but I do have a soft spot for animals and people in distress.
I see. I can definitely feel the last point. Alright, second question. Do you have any hobbies? If yes, please tell me if you feel comfortable about them.
Mainly build and program small robotics. I also do gardening, read novels, and watch all kinds of documentaries.
I see. You make robots during your free time? That sounds cool. I can't understand all the electronics and math, obviously, but they're still cool. Third question. What do you like the most about your hometown?
You didn't ask where my hometown is in the form you gave me just now. Is this important?
Ah, sorry about that. I guess I forgot to put it in the form. Stupid me. I'm sorry. It's used to help profiling my interview subject based on their sentiment towards the environment they grew up in. You don't have to answer that if it makes you uncomfortable.
No, it's all right. I understand your point now. Well, technically, I don't have a hometown, since I don't know where I was born. I grew up in orphanage in Tumaco, so I believe it's the best reference point for the question. I haven't returned to Colombia in years, but I have many good memories there. I was too young to remember names back then, but I remember playing for hours at the local arcade, and the joy of saving up money to buy a Walkman from the nearby electronics store. Are my answers fit for you?
Yes, that is so nice. Thank you. I'm sorry if I.
No, it's perfectly fine, I assure you. I would not have told you if I was uncomfortable. Believe me, no one can force me to talk when I don't feel like it.
Great. Good to hear that. So, fourth question. How would you describe your experiences during each stage of your education?
Thinking about it, my entire school life was mild and uneventful. I was lucky to not catch the attention of bullies, but I also never had any lasting friends. I joined the robotics club and basketball team in high school and university, which I did not spend too much time on. That was rather ideal for me, actually, since I got to delve into intense personal studies on programming and electronic engineering. Overall, I believe I had a good studying experience.
I see. Thanks for the info. Now,
Are we going into the romantic matchmaking part of the questions?
you guessed it. Yes, we are. There are only 2 questions for this part, so you don't have to wait much longer.
I would not have helped you if I minded. Please, ask away. I'll answer as best as I can.
Thanks, Zach. You're my hero. Alright then. 5th question. How do you feel about seeking a romantic partner in your current stage of life?
Well, to be honest, this question never crossed my mind. Now that I think about it, it was strange. But I never had any crush on anyone, even during adolescence. I do like certain people in different stages of my life, but nothing felt romantic. It is hard to explain why, pardon me, but it felt like I already missed the right person for me since the beginning. Well, I believe my answer is no. I do not feel like seeking a romantic partner in my current stage of life. At least for now.
Well, thanks for being so open about your feelings, Zach. It's alright. Things work differently for all of us. I'm sure you'll get the feeling right someday.
Thank you.
No worries, Zach. Alright, final question of our interview. This is actually the question I spent the most amount of time on. It's supposed to give the best analysis on the one I'm interviewing. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
How do you feel about someone who is as dramatic and arrogant as they are graceful and passionate? Someone who is also fond of cooking and hunting?
Well, that sounds like the love of my dreams. End log.
Closing statement. Further verification showed that orphanage does not exist in Tamako, neither in the past nor present. Interviews were conducted with residents of Tamako who have lived there since the year 1981. But none of the interviewees appear to know SCP-6648-2. The educational institutions which -2 filled into the education section of the pre-interview form, as well as the clubs -2 claimed to have joined, do not possess any enrollment records of anyone resembling -2. Note from Dr. Carol Lane. Please do not make me act like that again. Ever. Addendum 04 SCP-6648-3 Interview Log. Interviewed SCP-6648-3, currently appearing as a 25-year-old female. Interviewer Dr. Monroe Idris, Level 4 Researcher, Experienced Psychologist, and Philologist. Forward. Foundation researchers assigned to SCP-6648 devised a plan to interview -3 under the guise of a friendly conversation between hunters, which was executed successfully on 21/09/2003.
Begin log. Dr. Monroe Idris. Tough day, Alex. SCP-6648-3.
Damn right, Lewis. This son of a gun nearly rammed me into a tree. Too bad I'm still faster than him.
I never doubted it.
You better not, Lewis. You better not. Ah, speaking of that, I also never doubted that you got us a nice wild chicken. Please tell me I'm right.
Your trust is well placed, Alex. We're gonna have a nice grill tonight.
And what? We gobble up some protein and talk about our lives?
I wouldn't mind that.
Sure, why not? I'm curious about what brings you into hunting. You know, despite all the taking away the mommies from baby animals thing going on.
For one thing, I'm pretty sure you already know that we both hunt invasive species only. Besides, it's hard to shake the habit that your dad passed on to you.
Fair point.
What about you? No disrespect intended, but it's really rare to see ladies on the hunt, especially someone as veteran as you.
Well, my story is like yours. A hunter adopted me when I was 6, and I grew up in a literal jungle in Indonesia. Like a real goddamn jungle, full of snakes and boars and all the stuff that wants to kill you. Then it just became natural, I guess. He taught me well.
Now that's interesting. He's gotta be famous in the area, right? Or it won't explain how good you are with a rifle.
Please don't tell me you're going to my hometown.
Why not? It sounds like a wild place. I love wild places. Ah, just to make it clear, I'm not gonna ambush your dad's house or something. You don't have to tell me where it is if you don't want to. I just thought Indonesia sounded like a good place to add to my travel list.
Huh.
I'm sorry,
Nah, it's fine. I don't live there anyway. Sigh. And you asked me too late, man. That old man died last winter.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, at least he died in peace, Lewis. He died in peace. Anyway, if you're really that interested, the name's Murfadi Izwan, hero of Mentawai, slayer of the mad beast, as he would like to call himself when I was a kid.
Sounds like a man of spirit. I'm sure you had a pretty cool childhood.
Well, yeah, it was pretty cool, I think. Learned lots of things about the plants and beasts. You can throw me in any of those god-forsaken jungles, and you bet I'll walk out alive to get you. Well, at least my school days aren't cool. The kids back in called me a butcher. They said I smelled like dead meat. But really, I shower every day with soap. When those brats really threw dead meat into my bag, though, I beat them so badly that they didn't even dare to tell their mama.
Wow, that was actually cool as well.
Not so cool when those bastards from High gave me the same nickname again. But I don't want to waste my time on those idiots anymore. I quit. I became a ranger, and then a cook, and then a hunter. I guess everything went back to how it started. Not that I'm complaining, though. At least I'm proud that I'm a much better cook than my old man.
I can see that. Or I can smell that.
Not so fast, hungry man. Not so fast. 5 more minutes, Lewis, and you'll get the best roast chicken of a lifetime.
Oh boy. A man would be so lucky to have you as a wife.
You're not trying to flirt with me, aren't you? If you are, that's a pretty lame way to do it.
No. That's not what I mean. I was just curious, you know? Because luck wasn't exactly on my side. 80% of the girls ran off like I'm some children's storybook villain when they know I hunt. And the other 20% never stayed more than a month. I'm sure that's not the case for you, Alex.
Well, sorry to disappoint you, Lewis, but your luck is as good as mine. I'm a good cook, sure, but I'm far from a fucking housewife. For some godforsaken reason, every guy that had something for me wanted a housewife. That just won't do, you know? I still want to fire a gun and shoot some bastards. It just never felt right, Lewis. It never felt right. I'm probably gonna stay like this for a long, long time.
I see. Maybe you can start looking instead of waiting. Like, do you have an ideal type? Maybe someone who is smart, calm, well studied, and knows how to respect someone. Someone who's nerdy, but likes to help.
Well, that sounds like the love of my dreams.
End log.
Closing statement. Further verification shows that a person with the name Murfati Izwan does not exist in the Mentawai Islands, neither in the past nor present. Interviews were conducted with residents of Mentawai Islands who have lived there since the year 1978, but none of the interviewees appear to know SCP-6648-3. And High, which -3 claim to have studied in, do not possess any enrollment record of anyone resembling -3. Note from Dr. Monroe Idris. I know what -3 told me was not real, but it did not show any signs of lying. Perhaps this is also some form of self-defense mechanism? SCP-6648 Extended Logs Part 2 Addendum 05 Translation of the text inscribed on SCP-6648-1. Document Title: Translation of the text inscribed on SCP-6648-1. Paragraph 1 to 8. Version 4.6. Progress 65%. Last updated on 08-10-2004. Last edited by Dr. Monroe Idris. Forward.
The text inscribed on SCP-6648-1 consists of a combination of 63 different ancient Celtic symbols. Among all the catalogued symbols, 12 are Anatolian, 5 are Gaelic, 23 are Proto-Celtic, and the remaining symbols have no traceable origin. The text was divided into 12 paragraphs, with 6 paragraphs inscribed on the front and back side of SCP-6648-1, respectively. Translation progress to the text is currently ongoing. Translation: Among all the indecipherable, amidst the river of stars and forest of realms, if this letter was found by your watchers, be aware that the lovers are upon your world. They are as indecipherable as they indecipherable. It is paramount for you to know them and help them suffer, as it might avoid your demise. The first in love was indecipherable, clad in azure, indecipherable, and glistening, indecipherable. He was the mighty wheel, the mighty light, the one who breathed lightning into minds. The second in love was indecipherable, adorned with scarlet, indecipherable, and harrowing, indecipherable. She was the valiant sword, the valiant flare, the one who spilled blood into the oblivion. When ice met fire, all should be scorched or frozen. But they saw each other. When flesh met metal, all should be gouged or shredded. But they dreamed together. When the dark pit met the shining crown, all should be ruined. But they loved each other. It was not meant to be, but it was. The lovers watched the indecipherable and indecipherable. Then their children became, blessed by him in mind, and gifted by her in form. Fangs against silk. It was difficult, but it went on. The children danced, and their gods sang. As gifted and cursed as it is, the courtesy of indecipherable, nothing truly changed, yet nothing truly lasted. The lovers held each other dearly, but their children did not. Their children decided that 2 gods were too many. Only one shall be supreme. Their children made different choices and learned to hate each other, drawing power from their makers to harm the other. As powerful as they can be, they were no match for their children's hatred. They could Indecipherable. It all, yes, but they could not. When a god learns to love their children, they have a weakness. The ordeal was over, and none was left. The warm, the cold, the living, the dead. All was gone into the eternal, indecipherable. The lovers are not bound to one world. So with a broken heart, they seek. They were many. They were in all worlds. They were all among the earliest ones to be. Yet they were all different. Same in forms and names, but different in spirit. Like fruits from the same tree. Of all their different manifestations, they were the only pair in love. The hateful loathing, selfish love, and desire to reign supreme above the other fused into a horrible plague, seeping deep into their counterparts and children of other worlds. The lovers were spared from the plague, yet they suffered by watching another curse from indecipherable. Branches wilted, fruits rotted, and the stars dimmed. Weeping and howling into the indecipherable, the lovers could no longer sing and embrace without sorrow. All other worlds had a different them. They had no clean indecipherable to start all over again. Perhaps they could save one of the worlds, just one, to preserve a fruit of hope from the dying tree. Perhaps they were the real plague, but they were too heartbroken to care. One last farewell, and the deed was done. Their godly compositions and memories polished off like worthless scrap, leaving a tiny piece behind, only so they could survive. Their love for each other was shattered and ground to dust, scattered among their counterparts and children in that one world, to delay the inevitable. In a crude image of their children, they now walk among them, among you, cursed by their resistance towards indecipherable. They grace your land. Be aware, watchers of this world, this letter was a courtesy from the stars, a sister, a indecipherable, of the lovers. The lovers shall never meet, or worlds shall fall. Like the dark, indecipherable, and bright, indecipherable, they held each other in place, prisoners of their love for the other. Even if they can no longer love each other, the lovers nailed the fabric of existence in place, remaining apart to muffle the screams and struggles of their counterparts and broken selves. Even if they have forgotten such purpose, be aware, watchers of this world, if the lovers were discovered by those plagued by indecipherable hate, what is remained of them shall crumble and melt into their counterparts, who shall rise again to shattering worlds and great peril. Be aware, when the corrupted children of their counterparts sing the songs of hatred and make offerings of twisted love, the lovers shall be hexed by their fervent wishes to meet under the white star, and remaining paragraph untranslated.
Addendum 06. Rendezvous Event 02. Incident Log.
Incident Log. Rendezvous Event 02. Forward. The initial location of SCP-6648-2 and 6648-3 was City Bel Abi, Algeria, and Tauranga, New Zealand, respectively. Begin log. On 19/05/2003, 6 months after initial discovery, SCP-2 resigned from its position as a quarry control manager at Electronics and purchased an air ticket to Casablanca, Morocco, online. 6 hours later, -3 applied for a 1-month leave from its position as a ranger at Estates and booked a North America cruising trip online, with Morocco as the final destination. This marked the start of Rendezvous Event 02, and MTF Phi-6 Breakup Artists was mobilized. 12 hours into the event, -2 started driving to Algiers International Airport. At the same time, -3 boarded a taxi to Mount Maunganui Port. As the distance between the entities reached 24 kilometers below antipodal distance, plant life within a 5-kilometer radius of -2 started to display reversed growth at a rate of 2 months per minute, and the weather elements within a 10-kilometer radius of -3 entered an isolated static state. 12 hours, 15 minutes into the event, Team 1 and Team 2 coordinated with Foundation operatives in the local police department to set up roadblocks under the cover story of prison break investigation. To avoid inducing excessive stress for the entities and triggering their anomalous effects, the roadblock only delayed -2 and -3 for 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 1 hour, 30 minutes, respectively. 12 hours, 13 minutes into the event, SCP-6648-2 and -3 simultaneously abandoned their travel plans, returning to their local residence in City Bel Abi and Tauranga, respectively. 14 hours into the event, -2 and -3 resumed antipodal distance. 15 hours, 2 minutes into the event, all anomalous phenomena caused by the entities ceased completely. The plant life affected by -2 resumed natural growth without regaining their reversed growth progress. The weather elements affected by -3 resumed natural behaviors. Rendezvous Event 02 concluded. No casualties were recorded. End log.
Closing statement. MTF Phi-6 was instructed to propose several feasible procedures for delaying SCP-6648-2 and SCP-6648-3, involving all conventional transportations. Addendum 07. Rendezvous Event 05. Incident Log.
Incident Log. Rendezvous Event 05. Forward. The initial location of SCP-6648-2 and -3 was Sidi Bel Abi, Algeria, and Taronga, New Zealand, respectively. Begin log. On 28/09/2003, 4 months after Rendezvous Event 04, -2 temporarily halted its electrical design consultant services on a freelancing website. Internet browsing history of -2 indicated that the entity planned a self-driving trip to Morocco. 8 hours later, SCP-6648-3 applied for a 2-month leave from its position as a ranger at Estates and purchased an air ticket to Fez, Morocco, online. This marked the start of Rendezvous Event 05 and MTF Phi-6 Breakup Artists was mobilized. 8 hours into the event, -2 started driving to Figuig, Algeria. At the same time, -3 started driving to Auckland Airport. As the distance between the entities reached 28 kilometers below antipodal distance, elemental water within a 9-kilometer radius of -2 started to freeze, despite the local temperature of 26 to 28 degrees Celsius. And the confined spaces inside buildings within a 4-kilometer radius of -3 started to expand into 1.25 times their original size. 8 hours, 15 minutes into the event, Team 1 sabotaged the exhaust system of -2's car during a refueling stop, breaking down the vehicle 20 minutes later. However, the breakdown caused a small traffic accident, which led to 2 civilian drivers assaulting -2, despite the entity politely offering financial compensation, triggering the entity's reality-bending effects before Team 1 could intervene. All objects and living beings within a 500-meter radius of -2 were warped to a spatio-temporal state 5 minutes prior to the traffic accident, while -2 and its vehicle were warped alternative route. Simultaneous with the attempt of Team 1, Team 2 added temporary syncope-inducing and paralytic compounds into food ingested by the only ranger available for replacing -3. After the ranger was hospitalized under intensive care, Richard, the owner of Estates, called -3 and demanded the entity to resume its post. -3 sternly refused, resulting in a heated argument between Richard and the entity. -3 was highly stressed when Richard threatened to fire both -3 and the hospitalized ranger, triggering the entity's reality-bending effects. All objects and living beings within a 20-kilometer radius of -2 were warped to a spatio-temporal state 10 minutes prior to the replacement ranger's hospitalization, including Richard. Agent Yang from Team 2 inquired the replacement ranger under civilian disguise, revealing that the ranger only remembered eating in a different restaurant from where Team 2 poisoned his food. 10 hours, 22 minutes into the event, the radius of -2's effects expanded to 15 kilometers. Water molecules in the blood of humans and animals within the affected radius started to freeze. alongside environmental water, despite the temperature of 27 to 31 degrees Celsius. The radius of SCP-6648-3's effect also expanded to 12 kilometers. The confined spaces inside buildings within a 4-kilometer radius of -3 started drastically expanding into 3.5 to 5 times their original size. 10 hours, 50 minutes into the event, before MTF-56 could execute further procedures to delay the entities, -2 abandoned its travels and started driving to Algiers International Airport instead. Simultaneously, -3 stopped at a roadside restaurant and purchased a new air ticket to Singapore online. After arriving at Algiers International Airport, -2 purchased a new air ticket to Ecuador. Internet browsing history of -2 and -3 indicated that their new destinations were River Valley, Singapore, and Ambato, Ecuador, respectively. Team 1 and Team 2 coordinated with Foundation operatives within airlines to reschedule and reroute the flights of both entities, ensuring the distance between the entities deviate minimally from antipodal distance. 25 hours into the event, -2 and -3 resumed antipodal distance. 25 hours, 10 minutes into the event, all anomalous phenomena caused by the entities ceased completely. The water frozen by -2 resumed natural state of matter in accordance to surrounding temperature. The confined space in buildings expanded by -3 resumed original size. Rendezvous Event 05 concluded. 520 casualties were recorded as a direct result of -2's anomalous effects. 199 casualties were recorded as an indirect result of -3's anomalous effects. End log.
Closing statement. MTF-5-6 was reprimanded for their failure to properly account for public safety during the attempt to sabotage -2's vehicle, as well as underestimating the severity of the situation when -3 and Richard engaged in verbal conflict. Dr. Martin Flint Jr., the Ethics Committee representative stationed at Site 306, expressed her disapproval of MTF-5-6 sabotaging the health of a civilian to delay -3, despite possibilities of alternative methods. Addendum 09. Research note of Dr. Monroe Idris.
Monday, 21/06/2004. Last week was disastrous for everyone on the surface level, but we have learned to see beyond the surface level long ago. It's what we researchers are for, eh? I feel sorry for Phi-6 for having to deal with -2 and -3. And, oh God, the casualties. I do hope it will not get worse in the future, but we can only focus on the present. We finally got a viable theory, a new viable theory. Throughout our experience on anomalies research, we have learned that we cannot always trust the records we found on them. The stone might not be telling us the whole truth about -2 and -3, but maybe
just maybe, it is doing more than passing down their tragedy. We all see how -2 and -3 always try to move closer to each other during an R event, and how shit can go wrong because of that. But what about the stone? We lost focus on the stone because of the damages caused by the R event. We got distracted. The stone is much more important than what we thought it was. You see, after the SRA incident, I couldn't help but connect the entities to the SRA itself. Why do -2 and -3 have to meet at the stone during an R event instead of anywhere else on our planet? Why does -2 and -3's effects become worse when only one of them is exposed to an SRA? Because they are an SRA. To be precise, the stone, -2 and -3 are like different components of an SRA. We all know that a properly functioning SRA needs a reference point to a baseline reality, the Hume level of 1. An SRA also needs an anode and a cathode, access points to refill missing reality and drain off excess reality. It all fits in now, doesn't it? How the Humes skyrocketed near -2 and plummeted near -3. -2 is the anode, -3 is the cathode, and the stone is their baseline reality reference point. That's why -2 and -3 try to get close to the stone during an R event. They are trying to recalibrate their reality. Just like how an SRA regulates its anode and cathode through the baseline reality reference point when the calibration is off. We understand so little about this anomaly, but we know that -2 and -3 are stable if left alone. This anomaly is, well, keeping itself in a very fragile balance. Something is periodically throwing them off, but we don't know what yet. We need to know as soon as possible. Monroe Idris. P.S. Maybe, just maybe, after we figure this out, we can try to contain -2 and -3 by recruiting them into purposely set up Foundation sites.